Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunnivadi Vashtatara Shatharine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah, I was just looking back on the chapters which we're covering. We're on part 6 of Sankalpa Kaumudi, and there's 8 parts in total. We've been looking at the different, about the subject of bhajan of the holy name, and specifically when it's manifesting in different levels of attainment of remembrance. And these chapters correlate with the development of meditation. Remember, jnana, dhyana, or jnana. Then let's try and remember it. What's the stages? Anyone can remind us? Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, jnana, dhyana, and then samadhi. So we've been for 4 chapters, it's been about samadhi. I'm just trying to...
Dharana not there, Prabhu?
Dharana. Yeah, thank you. That's the, yeah. So now we're speaking about samadhi, and we have been doing that for, there's attaining trance, was the last chapter. This chapter is called Perfecting Trance, and the next chapter is called In Praise of Samadhi. Then that completes part 6. Then part 7 is about Rupalamba Bhava. Okay, so get ready for that. Well, there's lots of people. While I've been rabbiting away, there's lots of people want to come in. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, welcome. Sorry, everyone, I didn't see you there, waiting to get in. Hare Krishna, welcome. Sorry, I was rabbiting away and you're all waiting to get in. Please excuse me. Okay, so recording's on. We said our prayers to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome. We're on page 609, beginning chapter 31. So perfecting samadhi or perfecting trance. Okay. So if you do happen to have a copy, 609. Kaumudi Priya has a copy. Who else?
Prabhu, Vishalini Mataji also waiting outside.
No, she's in now.
Me now.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Nice to have you with us, Mother Vishalini. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare well. So 609. I can begin reading, I guess. If anyone else would like to read, put your hand up next. Okay. So readers will have noted that the sadhanas for the preceding 4 stages of Smarandas are very similar, in that the activities are primarily hearing, hearing and remembering under the guidance of qualified spiritual masters. What varies from stage to stage is the subject matter for hearing and remembering, as well as an increased attraction for spontaneous practice by both the regulated and the spontaneous sadhaka. In the same way, the last stage of sadhana, trance, generally shares the practice common to the preceding stages. The regulated and mostly regulated devotees will transit along the stairway of samadhi mainly by hearing and remembering the names of Krishna. His sadhana will not include a deeply felt identity as a Rajavasi, nor will it intently follow any of Krishna's associates. His general devotion finds its strength in its knowledge, faith, and attraction to Krishna. So Maharaj here is making a distinction between Raganuga sudden, and the general Vaidhi, the regulated and mostly regulated devotee. That refers to Vaidhi. And then Raganuga, the spontaneous practice, he mentions, he's referring to it. He's making a comparison to the two. So the spontaneous devotee, on the other hand, will increase hearing and learning about the Vrajvasis whom he aspires to follow. As he does, his sense of identity as a gopi or gopa both deepens and widens. Deepens means that he increasingly identifies with the Vraj service and form that he coverts. And widens means that his inclination to a Vraja identity expands to aspire for some or all of the remaining 9 aspects of Ekadashi Bhavas. Turn my phone off here one second. All right, any questions? Anyone can tell what Ekadasha Bhav is? The 9, excuse me, Ekadasha Bhav. This is the attributes of a particular, say, for instance, in this example, a gopi, then her dress, her specific service, her specific, a specific youth that she's in, specific group that she's in, and different attributes like that. 9 aspects. Ekadashi Bhavas. Not Ekadashi, Ekadasa. Yeah. Okay, any questions or comments? It's quite deep. I guess we can just about hear. Okay, so he's Maharaj is speaking about the spontaneous devotee. There are these are the 2 general paths taken by the regulated and the spontaneous devotee through the stages of samadhi, from where Krishna's grace will finally elevate them to bhava. While there is more to the sadhana journey of these devotees, scripture and acharyas do not give much detail. Bhaktivinoda Thakur elaborates somewhat further on the perfection of the Raganuga Bhakta. However, we have already mentioned that the path of Siddhapanali is not one taught by his successors, and thus we do not write further on it. Readers wishing to know what Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote may research the Jai Vidama and Harinam Chintamani. Yeah. Remember we was reading the Harinam Chintamani? We read that a little while ago. And in the concluding chapters, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the system of Siddhapanali. So just to remind you, that's where one gets given an identity to meditate upon. It's given by the guru. They're given a specific form, specific service to meditate upon during their Nam Bhaja. It's called Siddhapanali. So that Bhaktisiddhanta saw that as not being viable in the present age or in the present time. So therefore, one's relationship with Krishna is manifest in the process of devotional service as one gets purified in heart and one's chants the holy name, and under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes attracted in a specific way. So, for example, someone who follows Siddhapanali, they may not be, or they may be still very much attached to the material world. And at the same time, they're meditating upon a gopi. So that's called hypocrisy. Yeah. And ultimately, again, in the present age, who is qualified to actually do that? So therefore, Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, has given us this other method and ways. In other words, engage in the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it will be revealed. But just to let you know, if you read Harinam Chintamani, what you'll read at the end is Siddha Panali. So some devotees may get confused when they read it, thinking, oh, this, they may think, oh, this is the process of Krishna consciousness, where I should find out from my guru, my particular seva, the particular kunja I am, my group leader, and the specific service I have. And it's also given in Jai Vidama. And you remember we had that discussion as well, where this is the path that the Babajis generally take, these Siddha Panali. Remember that class where it was entitled Bhakti Siddhanta is a deviant from the Vaishnava path because he's not giving this Siddha Panali. Oh yeah, sorry, and they accuse Bhakti Siddhanta of being an upper sampradaya and his movement as being upper sampradaic, in that they deviated from the path given. And this Siddha Panali was also, it's a bona fide process. It is at a specific time, and it was elaborated upon by Vrikeshwara Pandit. You know Vrikeshwara Pandit in Chaitanya Charitamrita? It was given to him, and then he also elaborated on it. And I don't know if you're interested, but I have a book where this process is mapped out, this Siddha Panali process. Yeah, it's very interesting to read. But anyway, Hare Krishna. I'm going on. Any questions or comments?
How is it mapped out?
There's no need to know. No, it's very technical. It's very technical. Like, for instance, you have to sit down and you do mental worship of all the associates of Radha Krishna. You offer them 16 upachars, 32 upachars, and you have to recite all these mantras. It's very, to actually do that would take you about 8 hours a day to go through all that's required. Anyway.
You might as well follow the
So,
path.
Prabhu, will you do that for us, Prabhu? This is what you're saying? You mapped up for us?
Sorry?
You say that you will do that hard work for us?
No, I shouldn't even mention that book, should I? I must get carried
What we do is we carry on the way we're carrying on and wait for Krishna to reveal.
Yeah, there's the esoteric and esoteric. I already got mixed up. The esoteric and the esoteric. There's the esoteric one where it's revealed within, and that's the path we're following. It's revealed by the grace of the holy name.
Okay.
And that's the path we're following. We're not following the external path where it's assigned to us. Okay, these things manifest through the chanting.
So what is the other word, Prabhu? Can you repeat it, Prabhu? Esoteric
and esoteric. Now, one means the inner,
okay,
and one means outer. I always get mixed up.
Is it exoteric, like exit, maybe?
Yeah.
exoteric.
Yeah, you're right.
Esoteric.
Esoteric and esoteric. Do you remember those classes we had? We were speaking on that at one point.
Yes, we do.
And so that's come up. Nigel is mentioning it here. Although we have that explanation, remember that beautiful purport or explanation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur chanting the holy name? That beautiful description where he mentions the holy name takes him over completely. He becomes completely like captured by the holy name, and it reveals all the wonders of the spiritual world.
Yes. Isn't it Sharanagati?
Yeah, that's it in Sharanagati.
I was thinking, like, when I hear about this, that you have to meditate on the residents of Rajvasi, and you think, okay, who do you pick? I mean, where do you find out all the details about the different ones, and what do they do, which kunj they live in, what clothes they wear, and what's favorite, what's their age, what's this? I mean, it's just, you can't just pick somebody like that. It has to come from within when the time is right.
Yeah, that's it. I think Bhaktisiddhanta gives the example of like a newly married bride, she cannot demand a baby
Straight away.
straight away, but in due course of time, because there's a husband there, then for sure, then a baby will be on its way. So, yeah. All right. So let me read a bit more. If anyone else would like to read, you're welcome to put your hand up and you can read. So again, we're on the title of the chapter is Perfecting Trance. This is about samadhi. Margie has just given an introduction here. In preceding chapters, we've explained how a sincere devotee is never bereft of suitable guidance. Okay, interesting. Either his spiritual masters or the Lord within will ensure that the advanced sadhaka has the proper instruction to follow the devotion of his choosing, be that regulated or spontaneous. The Lord gives this assurance as a personal guarantee. Anantas chintayanto mam yejana payupasate tesam nitya bhujuktamam yogikshemi vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditate on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Okay, so that's encouraging, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because often it's seen that before a devotee reaches these levels of perfection, then the spiritual master, Shiksha or Diksha, may have left the world and gone back. Yeah, often that may be the case, but we will not be bereft of direction. So according to our qualification, the Lord will arrange we meet someone or we get the specific association that we need, or it will be revealed from within. Yeah. Seasoned wood and air from bellows employed in greater quantity can transform a small fire for boiling water into an inferno for melting gold. Similarly, attentive Nam Sankirtan and regular hearing of Krishna's pastimes can elevate smaran, remembrance, through the stages of remembrance to samadhi. What is possible for the experienced blacksmith is also possible for the spiritually enlightened sadhaka. The same spiritual intelligence with which a practitioner attained the lower stages of devotion will enable him to attain the exalted stage of trance, and of this process no more need to be said. We shall dedicate the rest of this chapter to describing the attributes of the sadhaka ascending the stage of samadhi. The attributes of the fortunate Vaishnava who has reached the doorstep of samadhi are of vital relevance to this book, because trance is the stage of devotion from which one is elevated to bhava. These attributes are an indication of what attracts Krishna's attention and of the eligibility for attaining his grace. A devotee who is in knowledge of these qualities knows the markers that signal the approach of love. Okay? So when we're speaking about samadhi, don't get, it's a wrong impression if you're thinking of someone in samadhi who doesn't see anything or anyone externally. Yeah. It's not as if it doesn't mean that they don't eat, they don't relate to people on the worldly platform, but in their bhajan, in their hearing and chanting, their level of absorption at that time is of samadhi. There is no distractions. They are absorbed in that. For example, a good example is Srila Prabhupada himself. He is not only at the stage of bhava, but obviously at the highest, he's of prema, realizing his relationship with Krishna. But Prabhupada related to devotees on the worldly basis, He would take shower in the morning, he would sign checks, he would organize a movement. You understand? So just making that point, when we're speaking about samadhi, it's not speaking about someone who cannot even see a red light or cannot see anything. He's just like closed off to to the world only during his bhajan. Okay. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, we could do with another reader. I guess do with another reader. There's only not many people with the book. Mother Chandravali has the book. Mother Kaumudi Priya won't be able to read. She's at work. Okay, go ahead, Mother Chandravali. You can read. If anyone wants to read, raise your hand if they have the book.
Okay, are we from seasoned?
No, one more down.
One more down. We shall delve.
No, the next one down.
Yeah.
In the age of Kali.
Okay, because you read the sloka.
Yeah.
In this age of Kali, it is rare to find people who are interested in what to speak or who will attain samadhi. By contrast, in Satyuga, everyone lives in a state of divine trance. Thus, they have no interest in economic development or sense gratification. Rather, they are self-satisfied, merciful, friendly, peaceful, sober, and tolerant. They take pleasure from within, see all things equally, and endeavoring for spiritual perfection. They worship the Supreme Personality by austere meditation and internal and external sense control. These characteristics of trance are also introduced at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. In the second chapter, Krishna calls upon Arjuna to transcend the modes of nature. In response, Arjuna asks, what are the symptoms of such a perfected soul? Krishna's answer is summarized as follows. One who has attained samadhi has given up all desire for sense gratification. His purified mind finds satisfaction in the self and is neither disturbed when subjected to the threefold miseries, nor elated when showered with happiness. Unaffected by whatever evil or good may come his way, he neither despises nor praises it, but remains steady, free from attachment, fear, and anger. When in trance, the devotee withdraws all his senses from sense objects in the way that a tortoise draws its limbs within the shell. And although he has abundant sense enjoyment, even if a slight taste for sense objects remain in him, he remains fixed in consciousness by experiences a higher taste from within.
Okay, so that's more elaboration what I just explained. Yeah, these are the symptoms of samadhi. Sorry, Kippan, because I used to think that, I guess that's why I'm bringing it up, because I used to think samadhi meant they just close their eyes for the rest of their life and they're in samadhi, they can't come out. They just, but no, this is the symptoms given here. Yeah. Okay, can carry on.
Some of the characteristics mentioned above, as well as some not mentioned, are worthy of elaboration. The features of samadhi we have chosen to emphasize are its liberated status, the realization is efforts, freedom from bodily identification and other illusions, freedom from karma, fearlessness, exclusive interest in Krishna's pastime, the qualification to see Krishna, and spiritual perfection from which fall down is rare. I just want to explain, in the liberated status, the realization it affords. The one I want to look at is freedom from karma. Don't one get according to the karma that's coming their way? I mean, how does that mean?
Yeah, this is called prarabdha karma. Is something which the manifestation of prarabdha karma is the human body which we have. is the body. So that stays with one, that prarabdha karma, that stays with one throughout the sojourn of one's life, you know. In other words, we're going to go through the experience of old age and disease. That's called prarabdha karma, because if that was gone, then we would just, if that was gone, then we would just cease to exist as a human. So prarabdha karma, so freedom from, so what in here means that, again, we sowed in previous lives, we've sown seeds of fruitive activities, good and bad. So if we hadn't taken to Krishna consciousness, there'd be certain situations which we will find ourselves in. But when one is free, one is free and the liberated state, then one is not subject to the previous fruitive activities, sinful or pious. And it should be understood that anything that is given to a devotee at this stage, anything which they are going through, is arranged by the Lord's internal energy. It's not by result of their karma. Anybody else on that? Did that help?
So at this time, the devotee doesn't have any karmas?
Well, it said that they have their freedom from karma, in that they are not like the ordinary person. What they are going through is directly arranged by a Krishna. It's not just like, for instance, you could give the example of the Pandavas, if we like. You know, there was no karma for them as such, but what was arranged, the situations which they faced, was already arranged by Krishna. But there is prarabdha karma. You understand prarabdha karma? Just prarabdha karma means the body.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just the body. So that's going to go through what the body goes through. So that's not going to stop. So Krishna can stop it if he want. He can, but generally, one's going to have to get a cold. One's going to have to get a virus. One's going to have to visit a hospital. One's going to have to take medication. You know, that's called one's prarabdha karma. So one may be at the stage of samadhi, but still one is going to have to deal with the human body.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Prabhu,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, Prabhu, how were the unmanifested ones? Because there are some still not written.
Anyone can quote Nectar Devotion for that? What does it describe about that in the Nectar Devotion? We have the seeds, the sinful karma bijas are there.
Yeah.
And so what happens to those bijas, those seeds, when we take to Krishna consciousness? Nectar Devotion, this is a question.
Do they get burnt up?
Burnt off.
Yeah, that's it, they get burned up. Yeah, it's described quite clearly there that the process of bhakti, I think it's there in the purity of devotional service, in the very early chapter of the Nectar Devotion. And Rupa Goswami speaks about the seed, when it manifests, and then when it manifests, then it seems to manifest if someone is born with an ugly body, one's entangled in legal affairs or etc. But the seed becomes, by bhakti, the seed becomes burnt. So, okay? Yeah?
Prabhu, okay, seed becomes burnt, but that's all depends upon as for our surrender. It's not that just because we become a devotee, okay, it is all gone. Is that right, Prabhu? I understand.
Don't you get fraction of what we deserve?
Yeah, this is correct. You may get, for instance, I gave the example, if you got your hand cut, then you should have got your head cut.
Yeah.
So, in other words, as we Anantas Chintayan Brahman, as we come under the protection of Krishna, then what's coming to us in the way of our karma is going to
It's the
be done
mercy.
by Krishna in such a way to facilitate our coming back to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Correct.
won't lead to further bondage. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just going through it. We're kind of ending it. We're going through it. Yeah.
Mind has got nothing to play with this,
The mind has got,
with the
Kids-
prarabdha karma.
well, the mind is, well, the mind is a, can you elaborate more? On that question? On it?
Yeah, and because the mind and material body is together, and the mind desires and makes so many karmas. So how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. The mind is part of the subtle body, but here, at this stage of samadhi, one is kind of absorbed in the identity of the soul. So one is oblivious to the pullings, to the condition of the material mind. Yeah, and the mind and the subtle body gets purified. Actually, this subtle body becomes dissolved. That's mentioned by Kapila. In the Lord Kapila mentions this in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that the subtle body, through the process of devotion, becomes dissolved. So it doesn't mean that one is mindless. So it just means that they're developing their spiritual mind, but their material mind becomes dissolved. Yeah, but interesting point. Yeah, because anyone else on that? Yeah, it's interesting to note as well as Maharaj's this presentation here means that okay, we want Krishna prema, but we have to get to these stages to get Krishna prema. Krishna prema doesn't come unless you come to samadhi, unless you come to bhava. It's not as if it's going to drop out the sky all of a sudden. So that's why these different stages are very interesting to actually study, and these different levels of bhajan and their effect. That's the path of obtaining Krishna prema. Yeah. As Shri Ramaraj was speaking on when he gave class on Friday. Yeah, we've got to work for it. We got to understand what the stages are and make different determinations to reach these stages. So, yeah, I'm just thinking of that as we was reading, just to remind ourselves, yeah, we have to ascend to these different levels of absorption in our bhajan.
Yeah,
To
this
obtain Krishna prema.
sentence is also from spiritual perfection, from which fall down is rare. So there is a fall down still. It's rare, but one has to be even more, like you say, have to work for it and have to really be careful.
Yeah. Right, you can continue reading if you like.
We begin by showing how a devotee in trance, while not yet fully liberated, has the symptoms of a liberated soul, or one absorbed in Brahmananda. When Prajapati Daksha was beheaded at the demigod sacrifice, they were advised by Lord Brahma to ask Lord Shiva's forgiveness for their offenses. When a delegation of demigods arrived at Kailash, they found Lord Shiva in a trance of meditation. Maitreya describes that greatest of Vaishnava in this way. All the sages and demigods, headed by Indra, offered their respectful obeisances unto Lord Shiva with folded hands. Lord Shiva was dressed in saffron garments and absorbed in trance, thus appearing to be a foremost of all sages. The verse equates Lord Shiva's trance with Brahma Nirvana, or the bliss of liberation, Brahmananda. Clearly, a great devotee is not absorbed in impersonal meditation. Thus, we may understand that Shiva's complete absorption In his worshipable Lord Sankarshan equals the stage of liberation. In his purport, Srila Prabhupada confirms this conclusion. How does the samadhi of the sadhaka equate to the bliss of a liberated jnani or yogi? Prahlad Maharaj answers, a boy tells his schoolmates, the boy tells his schoolmates that all learned men know well that complete meditation on Krishna gives a pleasure that equals or surpasses the pleasure of liberation. In short, the bliss of samadhi equals the bliss of liberation. This is further confirmed by Krishna when he declares that pure devotion is superior to liberation in this well-known verse.
Brahma Buddha Prasanatmana Sochadena Kansati Sama Savesha Bhutesha Mat Bhaktim Labate Param.
One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attends pure devotional service unto me.
Okay.
The next feature of samadhi is that the advanced sadhaka is endowed with realization of devotional truth. A consequence of intense nambhajan and absorption in Krishna's form and pastime is that a devotee naturally becomes realized in the confidential truths regarding Krishna. Such realization comes from hearing, but it also awakens spontaneously as he progresses through the stages of Smaranda. This devotional wonder is confirmed by Sutta Goswami at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. In commenting on Krishna's assertion that is in samadhi, a devotee experiences a divine state that is free of all miseries, Srila Prabhupada says, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. His divine grace emphasizes that the stage of trance gives a devotee full realization of the three features of the absolute truth. This is because he is increasingly in contact with Krishna, samvit sakti.
Potency.
As such, the sadhaka is empowered with both knowledge, jnana, and realized knowledge, vijnana.
Okay, any questions here? Comments? I just want to stop here just because Maharaj is giving different features of samadhi. So I'm just trying to identify exactly what the first one was, because he mentioned on page 613 is the next feature. So the first one is one is as a liberated soul, even though one is not fully liberated. One exhibits one manifests all the symptoms of a liberated person. Then there's an example given of Lord Shiva, who would attain the stage of Pramanivana, of Brahmananda. Now, a devotee is above that, obviously. So, Lord Shiva was absorbed in who? Lord Shankarshan, and that made him impervious or completely transcendent to the material world. So then over here, the next feature, is that a devotee is endowed with realization of devotional truths. So, often we're reading and it's quite technical, isn't it? And it's quite challenging. And sometimes the question comes up, Well, the one side, we have to be in knowledge of Sambandha Gyan in order to advance. But then some of us, myself included, may not be so, have an aptitude towards study. Anyone else here have that? An aptitude towards study. But here it's mentioned here that all the truths of devotion and Krishna is revealed at this particular stage when one comes in this meditation, this strong samadhi of meditation on Krishna, one comes in touch with Krishna's samvit shakti. And then all the, here, and then, so samvit shakti is the cognitive potency. So all the truths of Krishna become revealed to one. So that means even if someone is illiterate, or even if someone does not have the aptitude for study, but we should try according to our ability. Prabhupada expected that. Prabhupada gave his life to translating his books, so we should read. But we should rest assured that as we progress in our chanting and come in touch with Krishna, we're coming in touch with his samvit shakti, cognitive potency. Then everything that we have read will become aha, okay, it's like this, it's like that. Yeah. So one goes from Gyan to Vigyan. Is that any questions on that? Or okay. Yeah, his divine grace emphasized that the stage of trance gives a devotee full realization of the three features of the absolute truth. I guess that's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Yeah. Why? Because he's in contact with Krishna's samvit shakti. Right, I'll have a little read. In his Krishna Samhita, Thakur Bhaktivinoda highlights 15 truths that are realized by a devotee who has attained samadhi. The Thakur says that these truths are both very subtle and otherwise inconceivable to the unqualified speculator. While words represent objects, they cannot fully convey the experience an object transmits. The word apple offers the concept of a fruit, but cannot convey the taste of an apple. Similarly, the following words represent certain truths which can only be experienced by a realized soul. They are but some of the spiritual treasures awaiting serious practitioners. These realizations of the truth are, then he's going to list them. Yeah. So please, anyone has any comments or questions, please feel free to ask them. 10 devotees with us today. Hare Krishna. Nice. Hare Krishna.
That's how the completely illiterate devotees know the entire Shastras. And
Yeah. Who's that? Was Jagannath Das Babaji?
And Gaurkishore Das Babaji as well.
Yeah, he was more, he could read something, but more or less he was illiterate. I think he had one book, and that was Narottam Das Thakur's Prema Bhakti Chandrika.
I was thinking of the South Indian Brahmana who was so illiterate, but he was reading Bhagavad Gita upside down.
Yeah, I don't know if it was upside down. I think he was just couldn't read the Sanskrit. I think we got that.
He doesn't know which side is the right side.
All right. I think he worked out. I think he managed to work out if the book was upside down. Like just they couldn't read the Sanskrit. Yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example. Yeah. Also, yeah, Mother Rajkishore mentioned Jagannath Das Babaji. But because of their pure contact with the holy name, which is not different from Krishna, all the truths were revealed from within the heart. You know? Yes. So now there's going to be these 15 given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Right.
from the Krishna Samhita. So here we go. The self, the insignificance of the self. Okay. The supreme shelter, Krishna. Yeah, the self, the insignificance of the self.
Like that insignificance of self. You know?
Yeah,
We
that's
think
good,
that,
isn't it?
you know, yeah, really good word.
It's-
Good understanding.
yeah, it's a healthy realization to have that we are insignificant.
Yeah,
There's a
even
lot
then
less.
we think we are something. Even then we
Yeah,
so many things thinking. And I always go back to remembering what Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna Maharaj when I read something like this.
yeah, that's that famous thing, isn't it? You think you're such a big, and this is Tamal Krishna Maharaj. There's hundreds of universes. In one of these universes, planet Earth, and in planet Earth, there's hundreds of countries. In one country, there's America, and there's hundreds of cities in one city. There's hundreds of houses in one house like that. Then there's in one house, there's Tamal Krishna Goswami who thinks he's the controller of everything.
Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
think that our planet is Brahma with 4 heads. And the other, also another thing is how many Brahmas went to see Krishna. You know,
Yeah, that's another good example. That's
yeah.
in,
I just connect whenever my mind keeps going into I am something. I mean, it's not always, but I try to work myself down to this kind of examples.
yeah, so we can find joy in our insignificance. So that means we're less affected by false ego, because false ego is false conception of the self. So yeah, so that becomes realized by Krishna's, we may read it, but it becomes realized by Krishna's samvit shakti, the cognitive potency. Okay, the supreme shelter, Ashraya, it's Krishna. The relationship between the shelter and the sheltered, that's one of the servant. The devotee, the beauty of the qualities, I guess that's of Krishna. Activities, devotional service, and a form of shelter. The relationship among the sheltered. Anyway, there's a whole book about this. It's called the Krishna Samhita. The abode of the shelter and the sheltered, the absolute time factor, the various moods of the sheltered, the eternal pastimes between the shelter and the sheltered, the energies of the shelter, both the advancement and degradation of the sheltered by the energies. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is playing on the word shelter here quite a bit. Yeah. Of the sheltered, the misidentification of the degraded sheltered. Shelter means the spirit soul thing here. Yeah. The cultivation of devotional service for restoration of the degraded sheltered, and the degraded shelter regaining their constitutional position through devotional service. So we are sheltered under the umbrella and loving grace of Krishna. So we are sheltered. Well, we need the shelter. These are some of the realizations that result from samadhi. Everyone still with us? Just check in. Everyone, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, so now we've had two characteristics of samadhi. So the first one is that they develop the symptoms of a mukta purusha, or a liberated person within the world. The second one is that they're endowed with realizations of all devotional truths, again, from the samvit shakti. Now the third characteristic is looking at now. Okay. The next characteristic to be studied is how trance frees one from every aspect of bodily identification. Freedom from all bodily related illusions is also a separate characteristic of the Brahma Bhuta stage, and so we give it special emphasis. The reason is because of the significant role that attachment to and detachment from the body plays in the relative bondage and liberation of the practitioner. All right, so one doesn't identify oneself as being the body, and therefore they do not identify oneself as being related to anyone, actually. one's husband, one's children, one's country. One identifies himself only as Krishna's servant. Yeah. Freedom from the demands of the body does not mean that the body ceases to exist. Although Krishna takes charge of his devotee, he does not free the surrendered soul from all traces of karma. All right, we just spoke about that, isn't it? So here we go. What were he to do so, the sadhaka would be unable to complete his devotional service without the body. So again, that's prarabdha karma. Therefore, both the gross and subtle body. Okay, Mother, who asked? Yeah, we were hearing about the subtle body. Mother Vishani asked about that. So it's been described here, and I have to stand corrected. It's stand here. Therefore, both the gross and subtle body, along with the vital air and senses, must continue under the control of divine destiny. However, the self-realized practitioner is a master of his body and no longer a surrendered slave of its demands or its various manifestations. Neither will he ever be. Indeed, an advanced sadhaka looks upon his body as no more than something that is experienced in a dream. Yeah. So, as opposed to a materialist, their whole sense of self is based on their body. Yeah. So that's why materialistic people, their body and the presentation of their body means everything to them. That's why you have beauty parlors. That's why you have nail clipping parlors. Clothes shops. You have the body shop. Vanity. You know, especially youngsters, teenagers, and they're brainwashed. You know, that their presentation of their self means everything. You know, but the sadhaka, but this devotees, they don't even identify themselves as being the body in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Although Gaudiya Vaishnavas intensely engage their bodies and the world in spreading Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, they always remain aloof from illusion by remembering that those things are not the ultimate reality, but the temporary one. Despite hands-on contact with the material world, realized detachment creates a chasm between the sadhaka and its sense objects. He may appear attached, but he is not. The Hamsa avatar reveals how far removed from the body a devotee really is. While an avadhuta may externally exhibit detachment in this example, most Gaudiyas internalize it. The Lord says. Like recently, it was Vamsi Das Babaji's appearance day, wasn't it? And he very much acted. Well, he was an avadhuta, so therefore, his detachment was starkly manifest externally. In the fact he didn't wear clothes, in the fact that he, etc. So you got this point? Gaudiyas, in general, they will internalize this detachment, but still engage in the world. So, quote from here, from Bhagavatam. Just as a drunken man does not notice if he is wearing his coat or shirt, similarly, one who is perfect in self-realization and who has thus achieved his eternal identity does not notice whether the temporary body is sitting or standing. Indeed, if by God's will the body is finished, or if by God's will he obtains a new body, a self-realized soul does not notice. Just as a drunken man does not notice the situation of his outward dress. Unquote. You like to read some more, Mahmood Chandravalli? Or anyone else has the book? I think it's only us two.
Okay.
My voice is getting a bit weak.
Okay, which paragraph now?
Prahlad Maharaj, 616, top.
Prahlad Maharaj is an example of a devotee in Samadhi who, as mentioned previously, was completely oblivious of the needs or working of his body. Narad Muni explains that the boy was so engrossed in thoughts of Krishna that he went about his daily activities out of habit. Prahlad was unaware of his own actions, which were directly carried out on his behalf by the Supreme Lord. After Hiranyakashipu was killed and the boy was enthroned as the emperor of the three worlds, Prahlad Maharaj went about the duties of a king with attention to the welfare of all his subjects. In both boyhood and monarchy, Prahlad Maharaj was situated in the same spiritual trance. However, once kingly duties demanded his attention to the kingdom, he internalized the same detachment from his body that he had once manifested externally. This illustrates how extreme indifference to the demands of the body are manifest and unmanifest by self-realized souls. A devotee in trance exhibits and experiences no connection to his own body. He sees his body as the property of the Lord, an instrument to be engaged exclusively in Krishna's service. Scriptures are
replete
with descriptions of this attainment, for it is the goal of all practicing Vaishnavas. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are two almost identical verses that praise the detachment as Smaran Samadhi. One is spoken by Kapil Dev and the other by the Hamsa Avatar. This is the one spoken by the son of Devahuti. The body of such a liberated yogi, along with the senses, is taken charge of by Supreme Personality of Godhead and its functions until its destined activities are finished. The liberated devotee, being awake to his constitutional position and thus situated in Samadhi, the highest perfectional stage of yoga, does not accept the byproducts of the material body as his own. Thus he considers his bodily activities to be like the activities of a body in a dream.
Okay, let's pause there. Hari Om, Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. So now we're going to have to stop and break your samadhi. We've all been in samadhi the last hour here in Sankalpa Kaumudi. So I'll let you again interact with the material world. Okay, so thank you everyone. Quite technical what we're reading, but it's nice. It's very interesting. Yeah. Hopefully these things we have as we go on in Krishna consciousness, hopefully we can, this life or next life, we can experience of what been explained. Okay, thank you everyone. And please join us tomorrow. We're on Bhagavad Gita ending chapter 5. Yeah, the last verse of chapter 5, and we begin in chapter 6. So please join us for that if you like. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Verses of
Thank
Krishna
you.
consciousness ki
Jai.
Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai. Thank you very much.